Most kids hate school, and many of us would even venture out to say that school was or still is torture.
I hated going to school when I was a kid. It was torture.
The question most kids wonder is when they will ever use the various things they learn in school, from solving differential equations to analyzing the rhetorical devices used in Shakespeare's plays. Parents and teachers will tell us that no education is ever wasted. But this is simply not true from an objective standpoint. Jeff Bezos has likely not written a poem since high school, and Dwayne Johnson likely doesn't even remember calculus. Moreover, Apple doesn't care if you can recite the Gettysburg Address, and Google doesn't care if you know what the mitochondria of a cell does. Fortunately, however, we are on the verge of an educational revolution, and here's what we may see in the next several years. Education is important, and no one will argue against that. But at the same time, I think most of us would agree that the educational system is broken. The average cost of attendance for a public university is currently over $25,000 per year, while the average cost of attendance for private schools is over $50,000 per year, which translates to $100,000 and over $200,000 for a traditional four-year degree. But like the dot-com, housing, and cryptocurrency bubbles, the educational bubble too will pop. Even before we see large-scale artificial intelligence that will accelerate our learning process, the education system is likely to be quite different within the next decade or two due to the rapid transition away from formal education. Companies including Google, Apple, IBM, Bank of America, Starbucks, Tesla, and many more have all dropped their degree requirements, and this trend isn't stopping anytime soon. But why now? College has been consistently getting more expensive and really hasn't made any fundamental changes within the last 4 decades. So why are companies all of a sudden dropping what many consider to be an essential? Well, the two key underlying reasons for this are the purpose of university and school in general, as well as the rate of progress. To better understand this shift, we have to first take a look at the two main things we learn throughout our educational careers, which are hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are the actual content we learn throughout math, physics, computer science, engineering, and so on and so forth. Soft skills, on the other hand, are less concrete. This includes our social and communication skills and our various personality traits. And the thing is, companies never required college degrees for the hard skills we learn, but rather the soft skills. This is because hard skills are generally much easier to learn and teach. Thus, companies prefer to hire individuals with strong teamwork and leadership skills who can quickly pick up the technical skills on the job. After all, most people learn more during the first several weeks at their job compared to the 4 years at college. And companies know that and have always known that. With that being said, why did they require degrees to begin with? Well, aside from universities providing job applicants with a solid understanding of fundamentals, they're also a strong indication of various soft skills. Employers like high GPAs not simply because they show that you have a strong grasp of the content, but more importantly that you're hardworking, dedicated, and have high standards. Similarly, employers don't value internships because you must have learned so much coding and engineering skills, but rather because it shows that you actively seek out external opportunities and that you have experience working on a team on a real project. So, the degree requirement over the past few decades was mostly driven by soft skills. However, after looking for such candidates for many decades now, most companies have become very good at identifying these individuals through other mediums, such as interviews, competitions, and other individual accomplishments, such as filing patents or running a successful local business. As a result, employers' dependence on college to determine soft skills has subsided. At the same time, the rate of progress has also grown exponentially, making the hard skills learned at college more and more outdated. College and school have always been several years behind the real world. This is because companies have to discover the technology and mainstream the technology before state legislatures as well as private institutions incorporate them into their own curriculums. As a result, the latest technologies usually don't hit universities until several years after they're developed. Though a slight inconvenience, this wasn't too big of a problem at the start. However, as technology, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, and even computer science advance at exponential rates, companies don't want to have to wait a decade or more before they get relevant applicants. Not to mention, the applicants have been taught outdated information. This trend has consistently increased the company's role in the training and education process from maybe 30 or 40% to 60, 70, and 80%. As a result, when companies can choose individuals with strong soft skills without help from universities, and when they're doing the majority of the training anyway, why not just bypass college and train future employees yourself? And that's exactly what's happening right now. Google recently launched its own career certification program, which they say will hold equal weight to four-year programs, at least with them. Instead of covering a broad range of topics and materials like in traditional college, Google's career certification programs simply train you for the job and cuts out everything else. Currently, they have 4 different certifications, which include data analyst, project manager, UX designer, and IT support specialist. The program is just in its beginning stages, but it's just a matter of time until they start offering more serious certifications, such as software engineer and financial analyst. Similarly, last year, Amazon announced that it will spend $700 million to train 100,000 of their current employees. This investment includes Amazon Technical Academy, which is supposed to transition technical employees to software engineering careers within the company and beyond. On top of this, they also introduced Associate to Tech, which will transition distribution workers to tech roles as their jobs are automated. They even have their own machine learning university, which is taught by 400 machine learning scientists who work for Amazon. Similar programs are also available from other leading companies such as Apple, IBM, GE, and many others. And did I mention that all of these programs only last 6 months and only cost a couple of $100 each? Obviously, these programs are not yet largely recognized aside from the companies that are offering the programs themselves. But they do offer a great opportunity for individuals who either can't afford college or don't want to go in debt to get a degree. Moreover, even though their certificates and training aren't largely accepted, experience working at these companies is largely accepted. Thus, if you're able to score a job at Google, Amazon, or Apple with one of these programs, you're set in that field. Working at Google, Amazon, or Apple for 5 to 10 years will no doubt put you leagues above the average job applicant. Thus, even if you ever get laid off or want to switch jobs, you can use your experience. Furthermore, as these companies prove the viability of such accelerated low-cost programs by continuing to innovate and advance their companies, the value of these programs will also exponentially increase, which will simultaneously decrease the demand for college degrees. And this will finally get traditional institutions to also alter the manner in which they educate to be more efficient and cost-effective if they want to be a competitive option to the vast majority of people. Of course, certain programs will continue to only be offered by universities, such as medicine and law. However, the vast majority of tech jobs, which is the vast majority of our futures, will likely switch over to certifications and programs offered by companies as opposed to traditional school over the next 10 to 20 years. This is not all good though. Though this will make several high-paying jobs more accessible to the average individual, this will also significantly increase the competition for these jobs. This may also saturate the market, thus lowering pay for these jobs across the field. So this can very well hurt the average employee, as it will become more difficult to get a job and they will get paid less. However, from a societal perspective, this is very beneficial as it drives innovation due to more competition. But anyways, taking a look at a larger scope view of education, we are likely to see even larger disruptions within the next 20 to 50 years through the help of artificial intelligence. And of course, one of the most well-known and hyped companies within this field is Elon Musk's Neuralink. Neuralink was founded in 2016 with the goal to merge computers with the human brain to transform our brains into supercomputers. Right now, the Neuralink N1 implant has been revealed to sit behind one's ear and have electrodes that are threaded into the brain. We have already seen neural technology that is capable of both interpreting and stimulating neurons within the brain. For instance, we have already seen several demonstrations in which such technology has been used to control robotic arms and legs using nerve endings that are still intact. As for exactly how Neuralink will interact with our brains, their implants currently use very thin flexible wires, which are much thinner than human hair follicles. These wires will essentially be sewn into our brains using sewing machines. Though that sounds really scary and dangerous, it's actually not as scary as it sounds. And using such machinery is the only way to mainstream this technology safely, as doing it manually requires conducting brain surgery. Moreover, the threading of such wires with the brain requires very fine motor skills, which is very difficult to do by hand. Anyways, after these wires are sewn onto the brain, the other side will be connected to a superchip, which is of course the most crucial portion of the product's success. Currently, the main concern with the superchip is actually receiving accurate signals from the brain itself. Electrical signals from the brain are already very small themselves, as the brain is literally as efficient as a light bulb. Thus, the electrical signals within the brain are very small and tough to sense. On top of this, when this signal is being transmitted through a very thin wire, the chances of distortion exponentially increase with the length of the wire. Thus, it's essential that the superchip is as close to the source as possible. But with all of this in place, what have they been able to accomplish? Well, last year, Elon Musk announced that they were able to get a monkey to control a computer with its brain. But experts in the field warn that this is not as impressive as you may think, as the monkey is likely not able to do meaningful functions on the computer, like using the internet or interpreting information on the internet. Rather, experts suggest that the progress is likely to have given the monkey the ability to move the cursor or possibly type. As a result, pairing our brains with artificial intelligence is still quite a whiles off. However, something that is actually on the horizon is perfecting control of artificial limbs and, more importantly, giving them the feeling of touch. This would of course be a monumental feat for paralyzed individuals who would love to take advantage of this technology to regain control of their limbs as well as a sense of touch. But anyways, moving back to its impact on education, given that the technology is just in its infancy, we are likely to see our brains transition into supercomputers within our lifetimes. However, what we may see this technology enable is limited access to the internet. Of course, you won't be able to watch YouTube videos or play online games using Neuralink anytime soon. But what we may be able to do is access word-based media, such as articles and encyclopedias, which would eliminate the need to memorize anything. We can access the date that the Magna Carta was written, as well as the entire transcript of the Federalist Papers in a split second. We will essentially be able to download word-based information onto our brains at will. No more formula sheets or reading books or articles. But then, what will we do in school and college? Well, even if such technology doesn't come to fruition for several decades, the truth is, having this information accessible using our brains is just a luxury, as we already have it in our pockets. Sure, we may not be able to process information in a split second using our brains, and we actually have to spend time and effort reading and understanding material. But we can already access everything in just 10 seconds using our phones. And unfortunately, most traditional schooling has yet to acknowledge the fact that this is the new reality and continue to teach through memorization. However, this is slowly changing as curriculums and teachers are evolving to accommodate for these new resources, and this will simply accelerate with the introduction of such technology. For instance, science classes will focus on labs and trial and error rather than memorizing various equations. Similarly, history will focus on the influence and impact of various events rather than the dates and names. In the meantime, companies will start to implement their own training and certification programs for jobs in the tech and business world. College will serve a niche audience looking for certain degrees in medicine and law, as opposed to feeding a broad audience generic and often outdated material. We'll have a whole slew of people running their own small online businesses and schooling will switch over to focusing on soft skills and application as opposed to memorization. And with all of these transitions, hopefully, fewer people will see school as a monotonous chore and more of a resource that actually prepares them for the future for once. But that's just what I think. Where do you guys see school heading with the technological improvements? Comment that down below. And of course, if you guys like the depth of this analysis, then make sure to drop a like and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.